What's good, people? What's good, ladies and gentlemen? I've got Dan here. He just popped off on a big month last month. We're just coming into January now. So I just wanted to jump him on for a little video here, a little interview, if you like, to explain things, go over some things, hopefully drop some value and kind of explain the journey and what happened to get him there. So, Dan, I guess anybody who doesn't know you, give yourself a little kind of introduction. Let them understand who you are, what you do, where you're from, whatever else.
Yeah, so what's up, everybody? I'm Dan. Basically, I've been in the info space, info operating space for almost a year now. Got started last year. Used to work different, just doing different things, and then over time, I've always been interested in online money, and yeah, here we are.
Sick. Love it. Yeah, 100%. Where are you from, by the way?
I'm from Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh. Sick, man.
Pittsburgh,
Over in the
Pennsylvania.
US, across the world. We love that shit. So I guess we'll dive into the deep end straight away just to give people the numbers, keep them sticking around watching the whole thing. I guess last month was a big month. So hit us with the results last month. What revenue and cash were you sitting at by the end of the month of December, at the time of recording this? What were the results? The biggest month, I think, right?
Yeah, so last month was great. We did 66K in revenue, 55K of that cash collected up front.
Sick. Unreal. Let's go. How many calls did it take to get you that? I'll just give us a round figure if you have an average or whatever.
I want to say it was between 30 to 45 calls, maybe, off the top of my head. I'm actually not 100% sure, but it was definitely more than 30.
Yeah. And a pretty high close rate.
Yeah, I think, yeah, close rate was probably right around 30%.
Sick. Cool, man. How does it fucking feel then? I guess first things first, right? You've been grinding out with this client for so long, hit a pretty big fucking month. I think we were kind of going back and forth with like different issues and fixing things and trying new things. So how did it feel hitting that big number, the biggest number, I guess?
I mean, yeah, it was great actually. I mean, especially whenever those checks started coming in, I was like, holy shit, like this is actually a great month. So, I mean, it
Yeah.
was actually really, really exciting to finally see like some of that, like the cash come my way and be able to, especially around the holidays, it was just perfect timing to be able to, pocket that and just, yeah, overwhelmed with how much it really meant to see like, this is really, it's becoming real, because I always, online money info, whatever, like it was always like something that I'm like, man, I want to do that. And so
Yeah.
finally making it real and just seeing the results of that just felt unreal.
Yeah. No, 100% fire. Let's zoom out a little bit then, I guess, to sort of, we'll end up how you got that result. We'll kind of break it all down. But I want to zoom out all the way really to the beginning. Like, what were you doing beforehand? And then how did you sort of transition and get into the space in general? And then, how did we first meet? How did we first start working together? Give us that full kind of, journey at the beginning of getting into the space.
100%. Well, so as far as that goes, that probably goes back as far as like 2 years now. Originally, whenever the whole school thing was like popping off and getting big,
Right.
which I want to say was around 2 years ago, I was kind of like, what is this growth operating, Hormozy, whatever. So at that time, like I kind of piqued the interest into it. I started trying to like do my own school community, whatever, post content. And at the time, I was actually a home inspector, so I did home inspections for a company that does pest control. So I was pretty busy with that for the most part. So that was always kind of on the back burner. I never really put like full time effort into it. But
Yeah.
probably right around a year ago, I moved to a different location, and the office I was in, it was just kind of going to shit basically. And so I left my job, and at that point, like I was lucky enough that bills were low. I was had a little bit saved up and stuff. So I basically went all in and trying to figure out how to make this work. How can I actually survive and make an income off of this? And it was a few months into that I joined your community, and in literally like 2 weeks after, actually, I signed the my first client just after going through some of the outreach stuff, and
Yeah.
then I've been working with this guy better half of probably 6, 7 months now. Whenever I first joined and partnered up with him, a lot
Yeah.
of his stuff was just like a mess. Like he had different. He was just trying to do way too many things. So we simplified everything. And yeah, we've been together. I've been with this partner of mine for probably about 7, 8 months now.
Unreal. Sick. So what do you think changed for you? Or was it anything or was it just more effort? where you went from first starting out, trying to do it all, doing your outreach, watching the stuff, I'm guessing, getting into the space, school, whatever else. When you joined, or even before you joined, what had changed to help you get to that next spot and land this client? Or was it just more consistency? What kind of happened?
I mean, yeah, definitely on from a personal standpoint, it definitely came down to just like doing more and
Right.
not like I know one thing that I always struggled with is just like wanting to do like so many different things all at once, but in reality, it's just actually eliminating everything else and just focusing on the one thing that I need to do that's going to bring me money. And at the time, that was finding a client. You know, if you don't have a client, it's going to be really hard to make money. So just being able to lock in basically and focus on the one thing at a time and like each like lever mover, like the first thing was getting that client. So I really locked in and put a lot of time, recorded looms. I sent those out to people. So I think that was from a personal standpoint, just getting more focused on exactly what the next step for me would be in order to make it a reality.
Yeah, yeah. Is that the biggest problem then? Is that the only problem I guess you were facing at the start? Was it just like, I guess, was it shiny object syndrome in the sense of different business models, or was it only really within the model of like doing different things like outreach, doing this as well, doing this as well? Is that the only real problem you would say that was having, or was there anything else at the time as well?
Well, you know, I guess in one hand, it kind of was like shiny object syndrome in that, like, I didn't know 100% what I wanted to do yet. And I
Right.
also didn't really, you know, I hadn't worked with anybody before to even be able to know, like, oh, do I have the right skills, whatever,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
copywriting, AI, automation. So definitely there was a bit of like, oh man, what do I actually do? But I think what really helped with that was just getting my information from a single source. Like, so whenever I joined, your community originally, I kind of
Right.
pushed everything else out. And I was like, no, I'm not going to like, cause that was definitely a huge problem is like, you have all these different information telling you like, oh, you can do this. And then another person tells you to do that. So
Yeah.
just basically putting everything else to the side and just focusing on like one source of information was
Yeah.
really helpful. Cause then I'm not like trying to use all these different strategies from different people. And then, you know, they don't actually work that well together. So yeah, just being able to get the information from one source was definitely really helpful.
Yeah, 100%. So you think that's kind of what solved the problem for you then, is giving you that clear direction and that sense of just like, this is what I need to do. Let's just do it rather than getting lost to the different things. Um, I think now as well, the biggest problem is not only there being so much sources of information and value out there, it's like people also going against each other, right? It's like, oh, this
Hmm.
strategy's bad, this funnel's bad, use this one. Then that guy says, this funnel's bad, use this one. At the end of the day, right, like everything works. You have to just apply it correctly and just put the fucking work in. And that's what you've found, I guess, and what you've done to get there in the end, get that first client. So was there a sense of like, frustration, I guess, going through that kind of phase? Like, did you ever feel like leaving the space and things, leading up to getting that first client? Like, what was that process like between, getting into it and before getting that client? Was it messy? Was it kind of just like, I need to keep going? Did you want to leave, try different things? Like, what did that feel like at the time?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely messy because I think I left my job in about February. It's like halfway through February, and then I
Right.
don't think I landed my first client for a few months later. And the reason being is because before I actually joined your community and really focused on like growth operating, AI operating, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
I was kind of like I said, like I was in all of these different communities trying to do different things at once. I was like, well, do I start my own info product? Well, I don't really have an audience. I don't really have like a good skill to teach. So there was that. And then, you know, do I want to do ads? So there was just all these different things that I was
Yeah.
trying to do in those first couple months. That was really, you know, if I look back at it now, that was really the probably the biggest reason I wasn't seeing a lot of success is I was just trying to do too many different things all at one time. And so it was really helpful whenever I joined the community and I just basically I told myself like I'm going to do this thing and this thing only and only follow this thing and like really give it my all until I see results and then not that long after found my client and here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Sick. So I guess you've explained like, what changed and how that helped your sense of direction once you joined, but what originally helped you or made you, take that decision to join? Because if there's a lot of things going in your head, right? It's like, should I do this or this? Like, what made you go down that path fully all in and be like, okay, I'm going to join this thing. I'm going to, pay for this thing, join it, dive into it rather than pay for that thing or pay for that thing. And not only like pay for these things in this space, I also mean, you could have joined something in a different niche, doing a different service. What made you kind of go all in and join in the first place?
Um, that's a good question. I think part of it was like the from like a interest standpoint and like automation standpoint. I was always really interested in building automations, that sort of thing. And so I realized like if I want to get good at this stuff, then it only makes sense to join someone who's teaching this stuff. And then not only that, like there's really good value with free Go high level accounts. So that was
Yeah,
definitely something that piqued my interest of like, oh wow, I get all the snapshots and stuff that are pre-built. I can look into those. So um, I think it was just kind of like from an interest standpoint, um, I was more so interested in being kind of on the back end, building out
yeah,
things,
yeah.
um, and not necessarily like being so focused on like, oh man, I gotta make all this content every day. And so for me, it's just more interesting to kind of be on the back end and kind of help build the systems and stuff.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. What was your first impression then when you joined, right? Because we know the path is in like how you got to getting a client and stuff, but when you first joined, you see everything. What was that kind of first impression? Was it a good one? Was it truthfully, was it a bad one? How did you feel, first impressions when you seen everything and you first got in?
Inside the community.
Yeah, when you first originally joined.
Well, I was super excited. Like, honestly, one of the biggest things for me, like, no joke, was the Go High Level account with all the
Yeah,
snapshots because at the beginning, like, I really didn't know any of that stuff. And so diving in there, like, I went through the different stuff that was included already. I'm like, oh, wow, you can do this and this.
yeah,
So that was definitely really exciting to see all of that stuff. And then on top of that, there's just a ton of resources available. Huge content library and the vault as well with just a bunch of different like sales systems, templates, that sort of thing. So, it's pretty exciting for me just to see. And there's a lot of other people in there that are actually pretty dope. A lot of people kind of close in age. We're kind of all on this journey together. So it's pretty dope to be a part of something that's like active and moving like that.
do you think, I guess, what did you think your journey, your timeline, or even like any results, I guess, you had in that first, say, 3 to 4 weeks? Like, did you jump in and instantly start implementing into the outreach, or was it more of like a consumption phase, like you said, right? Checking out Go High Level and stuff. Like, what was the first initial, few weeks, 3 to 4 weeks looking like for you once you got inside?
For me, I really went, I'm typically, it's interesting. I don't always watch like courses whenever I join something. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people probably don't watch the entire course library, but for once, I actually really did, especially with the client acquisition stuff, I really did dive deep into that. And I tried to implement literally everything that I saw. So I even made like a little template and stuff and then kind of copied not copied, but I made my own like board and stuff like Miro board that
Hmm.
pretty much mirrored what I saw in the videos, and so that
Yeah.
was what I was using to record and send out to people. So it really, I want to say the first few days, I probably didn't outreach to anybody. I was more so consuming the content. I
Yeah.
was playing around with the Go High Level because that was newer to me. I hadn't really at the time I hadn't really messed around with the systems and stuff, so I was kind of figuring that out. And once I got a good look at that, I started building my list. And I actually spent a lot of time doing that. Like I was very specific with who I reached out to. I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that there was people that I could visibly see the problem that they're dealing with so that I could come and present a solution immediately. And I think that's really what helped. I really, especially when you look back now, like I think I probably only reached out to no more than 20 people in total before I signed my first client.
Sick. And was that you niche down right? Did you pick that niche from the beginning, from the get go? What was the situation like there?
Well, I didn't niche down 100% to one niche. I
Yeah.
picked like two or three that I had interest in already or somewhat experience because the client I have now, he's in the real estate niche. And that's something that I've actually, not that I'm like super good with real estate and stuff, but I've certainly been a part of other real estate before. And so that was something that was interesting to me. And I have family and friends and stuff that are kind of in that space, not like the info
Yeah.
space, but more so like the real estate and investing space. So it was something that I felt I had at least, foundational knowledge on to be able to speak the lingo a little bit. That
Yeah.
definitely helped as well.
Yeah, I always say that 100%. Having some sort of leverage within a niche is going to massively help you stand out, especially when there's so many people, not even just in our space, but people might be outreaching because they're a video editor or a graphics designer or doing ads or whatever it might be. So not only you're competing with people doing info as such, you're also competing with everybody else doing everything else. So having that kind of leverage to stand out is such a big thing. Um, I guess to move from there, like, where do you think, whether it's the same place or somewhere different, if you didn't join or like make that first move or just have that direction, I guess, where do you think you'd be at right now? Do you think you'd still be in the business model? Do you reckon you would have done something completely different? Do you reckon you'd have a client? Like, what do you reckon the situation would look like, you know, if all that was aside?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's really hard to say.
Of
Uh,
course.
since it's been like a minute now that we've kind of been together and working together and stuff. But if I didn't join this group, I do want to say like I believe in myself. Like I'm sure I would have
Yeah.
found something, but it's just hard to say exactly what that would look like, because it's just such a great opportunity to where with at least with this business model, you really don't need like to be actively signing new clients. Like, of course, it's always good to sign new clients, but what I mean is like it's not like traditional like retainer agency where you need to be
Yeah.
signing like 5 to 10 new people every month in order to grow. You
Yeah.
literally, whenever you're doing rev shares, you're growing with your client, your partners as they grow. So it's literally like the perfect business model to just kind of work for on the sidelines. You're helping someone grow and you grow as well. It's honestly like probably one of the best business models that I can think of, that allows that sort of exponential growth without having to constantly be on the client acquisition treadmill. Of course, like having new clients good, and
Yeah.
that's always going to be there. You can grow with multiple people, but I think just from that standpoint of being able to lock in with just a couple people at a time and help them grow and you grow at the same time, that's actually really powerful to be able to do that.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I guess there's a difference in getting new clients is always a good thing. It's a bonus, but there's a difference between that and being reliant and needing new clients all the time. I guess that's the difference there between most models. And one thing I'll say, which isn't the best for me, but it's like it's a good model if you're a hard worker and you know what you're doing. Like you said, it's one of those things where you're going to make more money and do better the more work you put in, but nobody's there to pull you through. I guess in a general sense, if you do join a group or you have some sort of mentor, like, yeah, fair enough. But I'm more talking about in general, you are an operator. So you need to fucking operate. So if you want to make more money, you make more money. You just need to do the fucking
Yeah,
work. So that's great for people who can do that and they want to get those results. But for people who are lazy and they see these easy models online, it's probably not the best thing. But to be fair, nothing probably is. People just selling you a dream. So maybe stick to whatever you're doing. But yeah, 100%. No, I completely agree. I think the model's sick, and I love to see where it's going to go from here. But I want to talk a little bit more then about how we got from where we're talking about now. You joined, you got this first client and everything, and then obviously what we spoke about earlier, 66K. Like, what's happened in between? And obviously there's a lot that's happened that me and you have spoke about and been through. But give
hmm
us a little bit of a, talk through that journey as much as you can. And obviously I'll chip in where I can, ask you some more questions. But I kind of want to just give people the full scope of how that looked.
100%. So whenever I partnered up with this guy, he had a few things going for him already that were good.
Yeah,
The first was his email list. Like we already had a few thousand people on the email list. I think at the time maybe 3 or 4 thousand. So that was good. I mean, that was definitely part of the reason that I wanted to partner up with this guy. And he is in the real estate niche, bit like high ticket offer, more on the expensive side of things, which is good. You don't need as many people to sign up. And originally, just the way that he was running things is nothing was really communicating together. A lot of his tech stack was kind of messed up. So that was the first thing that I kind of came in and fixed, was just making sure that things actually work. Whenever people are opting in, they're getting added to the email list, they're getting the automations, the reminders, and that sort of thing. And so the way that he was running it as well is that he's been in the space. Um, he's actually been running his offer since like 2022. But at the start of this year, things really slowed down for him. Probably, I imagine just the the landscape getting more competitive is kind of what I put that to. And
yeah,
so I helped him essentially reframe things to be more competitive with what everyone else is doing and really point out his unique standpoint. So the way that we were running things at first was just kind of doing webinars like every 3 weeks. And at the start, obviously like I'm still a little bit newer to this stuff as well. Um, we were kind of just guessing a lot, and it was working a little bit. You know, like we're getting signups, we're getting people to sign up, um, but a lot of it, I'm not gonna lie, is it was guesswork, and it's just amazing because even the fact that I was able to do that and help them like without even that much knowledge, really, just kind of having a foundational understanding of the tools and stuff and how to get things to work together and how to build a funnel, copywriting, just having a foundational knowledge of all that stuff, just
Yeah.
even just foundational at the beginning allowed me to start making, you know, first couple $1,000s each month online. And I was like, dang, this is crazy. Like I know I'm not even that good and things aren't even that optimized, but we're still able to bring in this revenue each month.
Yeah.
And then eventually, um, you know, we started talking more and getting into it with the one-on-ones and kind of really deep diving into like our systems and stuff. And that's when we really realized like, oh man, like nothing is really actually that optimized. We were barely tracking things on the webinar. Like the show ups weren't even being tracked, you know, so there's just all this stuff. We didn't have any UTM links. We didn't know where people were signing up from. We didn't know their whole journey down the funnel. And on top of that, like we weren't even utilizing the email list that we have to its full advantage. And that was, you know, definitely a big oversight,
Yeah.
uh, was not utilizing and tapping into that email list more.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I guess that's a big point, especially from when you started segment there talking about the email list. It's like, well, we didn't really play with that email list until more recent. So I guess when you first put in that initial big decent win in the group, I can't remember what that was a little while ago now. Where was that? Was it around 30 or
Uh,
40,000, I believe, somewhere around that benchmark?
yeah,
Am
we
I
had
wrong?
no, we had a really good week in like, it's either October or I think it was late October, maybe beginning of November. We
Yeah.
had a 30K week, cash
Right.
collected. And that was from one of the webinars that we did. We did a really good webinar that time. Um, I think we had around 180 people registered, and then I think the show up rate was 35% or so. You know, show up rate could have been improved, but I think we had about 60 people, maybe 50 on the webinar.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of applications. And that next week, when we were running the calls, they were just closing left and right. So that was a really good, like, that was our first big win, honestly, was that first big week.
Yeah.
Um, where we did 30K in cash that week. And the rest of the month was kind of slow, honestly, because we only did one webinar. And this is before it was really tapping into the email list and stuff. But that was also at that point where I realized I'm like, because we were already talking at this point with how things are really, you know, like they're built, they work, but nothing's necessarily optimized. Like we're still not
Yeah.
tracking a lot of that stuff. And so it was still even just amazing for me to be like, holy crap, like we just collected all this cash and like I'm still like, you know, it's just crazy because we're still barely really optimized. So it's just cool because there's just so much room to grow still. And I know that we could keep doing like bigger and bigger numbers, especially with like how I look back at things and I, you know, it's like, dang, that was like hardly optimized at all. Like we probably could have done way more than that had we had, you know, better systems.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's always thing is it's annoying, but it's always a good feeling because like once we spoke, I think I helped you understand. I think you already understood it as well, but it was more like having more clarity on like shit, like how big this can be. Because like you said, this is how we're doing right now. When I start giving you feedback on things, and like at the beginning, it wasn't even education. I was more asking you questions of like, oh, how does this look? What we're doing with this? And I think even just me bouncing those questions off you, realizing like, oh shit, no, we don't do that. We don't have that. We don't have that. So I think like
Hmm.
it's annoying at the time because you're like, oh shit, now we need to build this. There's more work to do. But it also helps you realize, shit, if we're getting these results and I have no idea what he's asking me here, it means that if when we get to that point, we can, have this, mega big, which I think there's still a lot of room to grow and there's still a lot more things we can be optimizing because it's not even been that long since then, really. But this is, the whole reason for this conversation as well, to really dive into all of that. So I think you're right. And around that time, like, beforehand, we'd started working, one to one together rather than just like in the group and stuff, like you mentioned. But I think around that kind of big win is when we really started like strategizing a bit more. Because I think I mean, you can talk through this a little bit as well, but we jumped on. We had like the initial timeline of like things I was asking you and like what we should be mapping out and things. Can you kind of relay? I remember like the first initial, not even things I said change this, change that, but just the first initial questions I was bouncing off and what we started to change and implement in regards to like that point.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it was a lot of just like asking questions, kind of diving into like, what do you have set up? Are you using this versus that? It was kind of diving into what we have set up and just even asking like, oh, okay, so how are you tracking that? And I'm like, oh, we don't even track that. It was a lot of that, honestly, where it's just like asking like, oh, well, how do you do this? And I'm like, we haven't really been doing that. And you know, we've kind of started implementing a lot of that stuff with more of the tracking. And for example, we're using ClickFunnels, and I was trying to basically build everything inside of ClickFunnels using their built-in calendar, their built-in service and stuff. I was trying to make it easy, but in reality, that just kind of slows things down, actually, especially for the customers. There's just a lot more friction with how that stuff looks. And so I think once we kind of started diving into, and you were asking me all these questions, it's like, oh, wow, there's really so much more that we could be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. And then, I guess the exciting part to get to the more recent times, which was, I mean, this is even funny for me because I think this kind of like, even for me, like I say, it kind of happened accidentally because I think, with these questions, maybe I shouldn't do this, but I'd already assumed, we had things set up and things are in a certain position, even from that point when I was asking these questions. So I think we went down this kind of journey that you're talking about there. We started implementing these things, making more cash, doing better. I think not only about the money, but I think you guys were just more clear on the next steps. And I helped you set up more communication with your client and have things like that, like more of a scope and building the team to not only, like I
Yeah.
said, make more money, because that's great, it's business, but just make things more clearer and systemized within the team and the business and whatever else. But I think it was, I don't know how long ago, but more of recent times. And I was like, okay, what are we doing between the webbies then? And like the people who aren't closing on the webinars, what's that? Because I think you came to me and we were talking about like people who were joining, way after the webinar and they were turning up to multiple webinars and all this stuff. I was like, all right, okay,
Hmm.
so what options have they got? Like, can they get back in the funnel? If they don't close on the day, you're like, oh yeah, well, we have like this follow up sequence that goes on for X amount of time. I'm like, okay, so if they reach out, after that follow up sequence finishes, now what? Like, how can they get back in? Can they buy? And I mean, talk about that a little bit, right? Like, what was that situation looking like? Would they have to just join another webinar? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, so it definitely, yeah, it was kind of messy because originally like we would just do the webinars and that was basically where people would either buy or book a call because even with the webinar we still send them to book a call because it is high ticket. Normally they have questions, whatever.
Yeah,
So after the sequence ended, like the follow-up, which went for like maybe a week or so after the webinar, there really wasn't a good chance for them. We didn't have a VSL funnel in like his Instagram or anything like that. And we weren't really sending it out to them afterwards. And then we realized this is probably towards the end of November where you were asking me like, well, what are you doing afterwards? How do these people get back in? And I was like, oh, well, I mean, we have this email list. There's maybe 4,000, 5,000 people on it now. And you're like, what? We got to be sending emails like all the time to get these people back in. It's not that we weren't ever sending emails. It's just like weren't wasn't as aggressive with it per se. I didn't have specific follow-up sequences built to really target, sections of the list or the whole list to get them re-engaged, get them to actually book calls and stuff. And so the first thing, literally like right after that call, first thing I did was get a better email platform so that our
yeah,
emails were landing better because the ClickFunnels one that had by default just isn't that great, kind of like the GHL one. So got a better email platform, built a campaign, started sending that out. And then from that alone, we booked over 30 calls from that campaign, which then went into December, where we started getting, that's basically where a huge month was last month, is from large part of that email campaign.
yeah. Sick. Yeah. So we zoomed out. I think the focus was more, like you said, right? We kind of not forgot about the webbies, but I think the way we looked at it, you told me the next webinar was in like 2 weeks or something at that point. So I was like, okay, do we need to do anything for the webinar? Like, I wanted you to tell me everything about the plans for that webby. You're like, no, it's the, you know what I'm saying? Everything's set up. We're doing it this way. These ads are running, whatever. I was like, okay, so you've got a bit of time here. Why don't we kind of forget about the webby? Like, obviously it's happening, but we're rolling up to it. People are going to sign up. I was like, in this time now, I want you to go away and just build this VSL funnel, get the VSL done, and everything like that. And I want you to start sending emails to this big sequence that you've got, and like you said, segmenting the audience. I think we also pushed through and checked the emails right, or something along those lines to make sure the spam wasn't. I can't remember the exact steps, but yeah, built all that, and then I guess that's what led into that December month. So can you break down how that looked then and how that applied to that big month? Because obviously, like you said, now we've got these emails going out, the VSL funnel, the webinar funnel. Can you give us maybe not the exact numbers, but the breakdown of like what money was coming in from where?
Yeah, so in December, yeah, right after we built that um, campaign to start sending out to people, that probably accounted for about 70% of the revenue in December was the email list alone, because what a lot of it was people that had either shown up to the webinars already, they've had touch points in the past, obviously been on the email list, even some of them going all the way back, a few years, 2022, whatever. So just having that follow up and then sending those people to the VSL funnel that we basically built out and optimized. I had like a basic one before, but we really optimized it with just making sure the video hosting was good. Before I was just using like Loom to host the VSL, which obviously that doesn't work that great. So got the VSL page improved, made the application process a lot simpler, and then they go directly to the call booking page with their info pre-filled in. So it's just a lot cleaner now. It works
Yeah.
so much smoother, and so having that built out, sending all of our old list there to that VSL page, that really helped us like pop off for last month. And we're continuing to do stuff with the email list now, with just making sure now that the list is more segmented, so I can send the right sort of follow-ups to the right people, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. No, fire. So you would say, I'm just obviously estimating here, but like say 40, 50K of that cash last month was all from the emails.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sick.
Probably.
That's money that realistically wouldn't have been there without the emails. That's a crazy jump in what could have been. We just didn't have that little conversation. We forgot about it. We kind of briefly went over it and then just, how do we make the webinars better? How do we do this? And I think that's what we did for so long. And we just hit a certain point, right? Where we were going back and forth with what softwares to use and all this stuff. And then one day I just zoomed out a bit. I was like, what are we doing outside the Webby? And that one conversation has led into building out these new systems, doing more emails and all this stuff, which I think is great. But yeah, so that's the result then, I guess. That's the breakdown for everybody. I'm just trying to think here of any more information people might want to hear from you, so they can apply it as well. But what did the team stack look like in this offer? I know it's a bit of a strange one, right? But give us a brief idea over it, because a lot of people with these sort of numbers, they're going to be dealing with managing decent sized teams and bringing people in or whatever. But obviously, I know for you, it's a little bit different. So what did that look
Mm.
like on the side of this offer?
Yeah, for us, I mean, it's definitely a unique case because this guy, he's pretty family friendly. For example, his wife is in the business. I mean, she doesn't participate as much, but the team is actually extremely small. All
Yeah.
it consists of the fundamental people that are actively making things move along
Yeah.
is me. We have one salesperson, and then we have him, my partner, that does all the content and stuff. And then at the time, we had one more person that was helping post social media stuff, and edit those videos and stuff. Or well, he's still on the team, so he helps film and edit the social media stuff.
Yeah.
So
And the
it's really only
salesperson
like,
does both.
what's that?
The salesperson does both setting and closing in this offer.
Yeah.
Got you. And that's the whole team.
Yeah. So there's really four of us that are like the fundamental players.
Crazy. Sick though. I mean, it's not a bad thing, right? It's less payments going out there, less people to manage. So pretty fire. And I guess the last thing to mention that's not unique, but different with some offers. This is quite it's backed by paid ads, right? You do a lot of paid acquisition with this offer. Some people do strictly paid ads, some people do
Hmm.
strictly organic. I would say you're kind of floating somewhere in the middle, but this guy's a lot more paid ads wise, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sick. So what does that ad spend look like? Are you getting good ROAS on that? Like how much are you guys investing to hit these 66K months, for example, to give people an idea, what money's going back into the engine every month, however.
I want to say whenever we do ad spend, it's for a webinar normally. Like if we have a webinar coming up
Right.
in a few weeks, we'll
Yeah.
typically launch the ad campaign about a week before the actual webinar.
Hmm.
And so we basically about every 3 weeks is the cycle for how we've been running these,
Yeah.
and then we launch the ad campaign about a week before. Typically, we'll spend about 1,500 to, I think the most we've done is probably about 2K on the ad spend for that week, and then that'll bring us anywhere. typically we'll get about 150 to at the most at one point it was like 300 registrations for the webinar.
Yeah.
And then the cost per show up, cost per people that showed up to the webinar, I think averages around $50 per person that actually shows up. So um, as far as the number standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
we're doing good for getting people registered in
Yeah.
our, and then converting on the back end through the webinar. It's hard to say what our exact ROAS is. This is
Yeah.
something that we still got to build and really track
Mm-hmm.
to see exactly like who came from the Facebook ads and convert and like what's our ROAS on the Facebook ads. But
Yeah.
each webinar we run, we typically do have a few conversions, so we haven't worried about it too much because obviously even one conversion for us will cover the whole ad spend and then some.
Of course. Yeah. That's the perk of having these pretty high ticket offers, right? You can't go wrong with it.
100%.
Cool, man. So what's your vision? And then moving on from here, I guess where we're at right now, like you said, there's still things to implement and improve with this, but what's your vision over this full, next entire year, whether it's within this offer or even outside of it?
Yeah, so for this next year, I definitely want to, especially with how much knowledge I have in all the systems and stuff,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be so much easier next time to do different launches.
Yeah.
With a new client acquisition is going to be the focus of this year. I'm talking with someone now that has a B2B consulting offer.
Yeah.
Um, so that's going to be exciting to kind of help optimize their stuff as well. I want to
Hmm.
continue to uh, increase our revenue with this guy, just make everything super clean to where I don't need to spend as much time on it. And if he wants to just keep running these webinars, all he has to do is basically just, keep posting the content. I can launch the ad campaign every few weeks, whatever. And
Yeah.
then we can keep doing that, send out the emails. And then from there, yeah, definitely client acquisition and scaling another person.
100%. No, definitely. I agree. And it's great, right? Because the thing is, not only do you, if you scale this guy and make it more clean and systemize the whole thing, it's great for his stuff and it's going to run an autopilot. But it then also means that when you do bring other clients in the future and you want to run similar things, you can pretty much plug and play the systems, which is when you allow that kind of, long term scalability. Because the thing is, right,
Yeah.
in this model, we've got crazy scalability anyway. You get crazy margins because we're selling, digital information, if you like, rather than like physical products or whatever the alternatives are. But once you get to a point where like you've built these infrastructures super clean and systemized, you can literally take it over here and plug it into here. Even if the niche is different, the offer's different, the systems are going to look very similar, if not the same. I think that's kind of like the next steps for most people. So I completely agree, and I can see that happening, very soon anyway, based on what we've,
Mhm.
setting up, implementing, other clients that you're wanting to get and have got, and things like that too. Um, so I guess to move on and end this off, what would you say to somebody, if anything? Is there any advice you've got for somebody back then with the sort of shiny object syndrome, like all the way back? And it's a long time ago now, but is there anything you'd tell somebody, the same as you, in the exact same position that you were in, that maybe watching this that might help them out or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, looking back, I do think probably the single most helpful thing was just limiting the sources of information that I was consuming. I was literally just looking at too many people telling you to do different things. One person says paid ads are dead, another person says funnels are dead, or
Yeah.
so everyone just has different advice, and it's hard to apply different advice all the time. So
Mm,
I think locking into just a single one or two, or max three maybe, like sources of solid information to where you can just go through and implement what that person is saying. One of the quotes I heard is like, fail on my dime first before you fail on yours. Like, take what someone else has done in the path that they've laid out and like literally just do it, implement the strategies. And when it comes to client acquisition, I know that was a thing that seems like a lot of people kind of struggle with, and I think something that's just really helpful, being really intentional about who you're reaching out to. Like, I think personalized just worked so much better for me, and just being able to specifically look at what I'm going to fix for this person before I reach out.
yeah.
And it does take more time, but the response is just way better.
Yeah, no, definitely, 100%. That's what I preach a lot. It's a lot better than the spray and pray in most cases. I won't say for everything, but in most cases. And, the exact same thing we explained earlier on, right? It's a model where you only really need one client. Well, I'm not going to say stop at one client, it's not the best move, but like you only really need one client to make quite a lot of money. So of course, outreach isn't going to be the easiest thing. And if you take a path for outreach, it's like, of course, you're not going to get as good clients. But if you put the effort in, you spend more time. It's like, oh, this is annoying. It's boring. It's taking a lot of effort. But what people don't realize is you hit that one jackpot client, you never have to do outreach like that again because you have results to leverage. You have an existing client. Like, so it's like if you can put enough time and effort into that and, sacrifice whatever else, most people can't. They're too, they need the dopamine, they need quick hits, they need to just send loads of DMs really quick. So if you can just do that and power through, you've got a way higher chance of getting a good client, which then leads into everything else without needing more outreach. I think that's really solid advice. So last thing here then, got to do a little bit of a sales pitch, I guess. If anyone is, on the edge or thinking about joining, working with me or whatever, and that's why they clicked on this video, if there is anybody, what advice or what would you say to them? Whether it's good, bad, just any honest kind of, speech on any advice you can give somebody thinking about joining or working with us directly.
Uh, I would say, yeah, to anybody that's considering it, is well worth it in my opinion. I've multiple like ROI. Like I feel like I've 10x'd the value that I've got here. Just,
Yeah.
not only was it super helpful to have one-on-ones where you literally dive into what everything looks like on our system, even just having all the modules and the Go High Level account as well. Like that's just, it literally pays for itself in that alone, probably just with all the snapshots that are in there. But on top of that, you get the consulting. So it's just uh, probably 10x the value for sure.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, brother. And we're adding a lot more for us to use and leverage over these next few weeks, months, whatever it might be. But yeah, I guess we'll end it off there. So I appreciate you hopping on, man. I appreciate everybody watching as well. If you've got any kind of final words, I guess, to finish this off.
Yeah, I would say just do it, whatever it is, just yeah, take action.
Yeah, take fucking action, do the thing, move fucking quick, people. Okay, well, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate everybody watching, and we'll catch you later. Peace the fuck out.
Peace.